Are you an early stage founder revolutionizing the future of retail? Then you're in the right place. My name is Sapna Shah, and I'm an angel investor investing at the pre-seed and seed stage in retail tech, e-commerce, marketplaces, and consumer. I'm also the founder of Retail X Series, an ecosystem to help early stage founders in the retail and consumer sectors. Retail X Series includes events, a YouTube channel, a Slack community, resources for founders, and this podcast. In this podcast, I interview founders, investors, and experts in the retail space, and we dig deep into the tactics around key topics that early stage founders want to hear about. Welcome to the Retail X podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Retail X Series podcast. I'm your host, Sapna Shah. Today's episode is all about building a brand that's omnichannel right from the start. Our guest today, Vanessa Dawson, is the founder and CEO of Arber, a startup that specializes in organic plant biologicals. Vanessa will talk more about her journey into retail. Welcome to the podcast, Vanessa.
Thanks so much for having me. Excited to be here.
Great. I'm so excited to have you. I think this is an interesting topic for our listening audience. For all the D2C brands, I guess we shouldn't even call them D2C anymore, that are looking at omnichannel. So let's start with a little background and then we'll go from there. So tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and then we'll get more into what Arber is.
Yeah, definitely. So I've been in the entrepreneurial space for over a decade now, launching, investing in, failing at numerous different ventures, and eventually, finding my way here to Arber. This is my fourth company, and previous to this, I had launched a community actually for female founded entrepreneurs. So we were working to support high growth female tech and consumer founders across the country. And through a lot of that great exposure, I just met so many amazing operators and experienced and got exposure to so much great technology and to corporate acquirers and to investors. And it really helped me lay the foundation for how I wanted to launch and run this business. And I think it also, in finding kind of what you want to do as an entrepreneur, I feel like that's the hardest step, and it's stumbling upon kind of that vision or that concept. So this one really did take me 7 or 8 years to come to, and just finding a great space where I could not only build something that's mission driven and supports growing a better world, but just a huge market opportunity in a category that needs a lot of changing from a technological perspective, from a brand perspective, and a sustainability perspective. So long path of investing and starting and failing that has gotten me to this place, but here we are now with Arber.
I love that. And yes, I hear you on the failing and starting and long. I think a lot of entrepreneurs can do with that. So tell us a little bit more about Arber. You call Arber an organic biologicals plant wellness company. What does that mean?
Yeah. So with Arber, we are really trying to bring the concept of plant wellness to the mainstream, which I think we're familiar with kind of wellness routines in a lot of our other areas of our life, I guess, in our consumer behaviors. But when it comes to taking care of our gardens or our indoor plants, they need the same care and attention that we do, similar to boosting our immunity and taking our vitamins and preventing disease and sickness. Plants very much operate in a similar way. So we're trying to bring consumers the most effective, highest sustainability and environmental standards, and around your gardening routine and the products that you can bring to your gardening wellness routine. We leverage technology that is called biological technology, and it's this pairing of biology and chemistry, and really harnessing how Mother Nature is showing up in the world and how she is preventing disease or cultivating new growth, and then taking those ingredients, those raw ingredients, whether it be bacteria or microbes or plant extracts, and formulating them, growing them, and turning them into beautiful and effective products that consumers can use in their home gardens. So really trying to help all customers, I guess, that grow a better world with our products and engage in active gardening that is such a rejuvenating and even health and wellness kind of space.
I didn't realize we were going to get into biology and chemistry here. Those were really not great subjects for me in high school, but that was super great background. So maybe give an example of kind of one of your products and how consumers would use it today and what it might replace.
Yeah, I love it. So I guess the current aisle for this space is really full of a ton of synthetic chemicals in particular. So you've got your mainstream big chemical companies that have produced a lot of these ingredients that are more, they're more knockouts. So you have a disease problem in your garden, or you have a pest problem with aphids, or you have something going on with fungus gnats in your indoor plants. A lot of the current products out there are going to be chemicals that just are very harsh and will knock out the problem that you have, but won't add any sort of beneficial health impact, and often are really detrimental to the soil health or to pollinators or even to pets or to kids. So, what we're trying to do is bring much more natural ingredients to this space while still maintaining the effectiveness of what you can, yeah, of what our products will do. So, for instance, let's say a neem oil, which is an organic ingredient in the market right now that covers a wide range of disease and pest problems. You could use our bioinsecticide instead, which is much more safe for pollinators. It's much better for resistance, and it has the same kind of effectiveness on your, on your pest problems that a neem oil would have. And our ingredient is actually made from a formulation of different live bacillus, so like that different kind of bacteria, versus a neem oil, which is more of a suffocant as its active ingredient. So different ways that our products work to be more effective and to be safer on you and on the planet, basically.
Amazing. That was actually very helpful. Thank you. I feel more educated. Okay. So before we jump into kind of the omni-channel part, which is what I really want to get into, just to give the audience listening a sense of your stage of company, can you tell me how many rounds of funding you've done, like how many employees you have, just to get a sense?
Yeah, so we're at about 11 full-time employees right now, with a number of different kind of contractors and agencies. And then we have done 3 rounds of funding thus far. We've raised on 2 notes, a total of just above 3 million. And then we're closing out on a fundraise right now as well. So we'll be announcing that pretty soon. So we'll be under 10 million by the time we close this latest round of financing in 3 rounds.
Great. Amazing. Okay, let's dive right into kind of distribution strategy. So, stepping back to when you first launched the company, you started with e-commerce. How long before you started thinking about omnichannel, particularly in this category, which does feel to me like a category that consumers go to stores, physical retail for?
Yeah, 100%. So we actually launched Omnichannel right out the gate. So when we launched our own D2C, obviously site and branded and bundled experience. We launched in independent garden centers through distributor networks and selling into them direct, and into like plant specialty stores. We also launched with what we call a channel we call wholesale e-commerce. So we sell through amazing partners like Grove Collaborative and Garden Supply and the Sill, and similar kind of like D2C focused either plant care or organic consumable goods companies. And then we also, sell in mass retail. So we launched in those smaller kind of wholesale retail channels about 3 to 4 months before we launched in our mass retail channels, was our strategy.
And how did you get those kind of earlier accounts? You just alluded to a distributor, but what was the process that you had to go through? Did you have a sales team at that time? Because that's really early. Was this all you?
Yeah. So my very first employee, Rebecca Alvanti, who does absolutely everything with me and with the company, was my kind of first head of sales. So the two of us really hit the ground and got the meetings and met with a ton of the different buyers of the top independent garden centers that we're interested in working with, and distributors that we're interested in working with, and a couple of our first core accounts like Grove and the Sill and others. So we hit it with a hot list of brands that we wanted to associate ourselves with, and then also some of the leading kind of, I would say, tastemakers within our space. So these independent garden centers really are a great place for an educated gardening consumer and an educated buyer as well, that really knows product ingredients and actives and compounds. And so that was our strategy, was to, because we were launching something so new from a technology perspective, we really wanted to be first selling it into a really educated buyer. And we also wanted to sell it into a consumer space that already was leaning a bit more organic and better for you, hence the Grove and the Sills of the world and the independent garden centers. So yeah, it was really just us two, like, hitting the ground, boots to the ground, making phone calls, getting the meetings, and trying to highlight why our products really were disruptors within a space.
And how, I'm assuming these buyers are better at science than I am, but how much of the kind of product side did you have to educate, particularly even like the distributors, but like for all of these kind of early accounts, how much was that part of the selling process?
Yeah, it's a pretty huge part for us because we have such innovative products. So yes, educating people on what are biologicals, why are our active ingredients so safe and a step above organic even? What are the certifications that we have that make us better than a ton of the different players on the market? And yeah, how do our actives work? Like, are the buyers actually even get into that stage of it, especially within the independent garden channel? They really know what they're talking about in terms of all of the different ingredient profiles. So yeah, I'd say the independents were ones that we spent a lot of time educating because we also wanted the sales staff and the buyer to understand. But then, yeah, there's a ton of an educational pathway just within mainstream, like grocery and retail and wholesale, because yeah, the buyers don't come from a horticultural or entomological background. So there is that. It's really breaking that down for them and also helping them to understand why the consumer was also moving in this direction and why the consumer is going to want the value that we're providing with these ingredient profiles.
That's really helpful. So wholesale, I think one of the things we always find, or I always find talking to brands, is that wholesale is really hard versus D2C because things like packaging, supply chain, inventory, those things are very challenging to manage. Like in your own channel, you can manage it, right? What did you have to do to get ready to be on particularly the store shelves of some of these companies?
Yeah, so we definitely built the company ops first. So I spent a lot of my time. I think a lot of founders have their areas that they focus on in the business, whether it be creative or marketing or brand or ops. And for me, it was really a heavy ops lift out the gate and making sure that I built a really great ops team out the gate too. Because yeah, retail is all about honestly execution. 80% of it is like, are you on shelf? Are you on shelf at the right time? Is your bottle like front facing? Is it packed properly? And are you showing up so that the consumer can just see you? That is just like step one. And so, yeah, we spend a ton of time on that and making sure that we had really great seamless supply chain all the way from, the 3PLs that we were working with for various different retailers to the fillers to the warehousing, intermediaries. And just, that's where I spend a lot of my time on the business. And I think taking the risk too. So I think building D2C is great because you can walk before you run. You don't have to go and commit to massive inventory buys and then you pay OTIFs or fines if you're late or whatever else. But you really just have to throw it and go all in if you're going to be getting into retail, especially into mass. And so we just kind of took that risk, so to speak, and in knowing that, okay, we really want to play big here. And so let's build the inventory, even though like freight is ridiculously high, lead times are double what they normally were. It's believing in your ability to get there. And then like making those inventory builds and taking that risk is also just something you need to mentally get behind as a founder too, if you're wanting to get into big box in particular.
And then how did you manage pricing? How did you initially set price? I think this is one of the conversations that a lot of founders who build retail later have built pricing for D2C, and then maybe need to adjust or figure out a way because your margins are different, right? In these channels. So how did you think through those decisions?
Yeah. So pricing is something you spend a lot of time going back and forth on. And you also don't really, we weren't even a year old. We didn't really even know our COGS, like of our products and what things are costing us and where our margin's going to land. So it was hours and hours just sitting in an Excel spreadsheet, making some hopefully good estimates and then looking at cross categories. So I think there's a couple of things that we want to do. We obviously want to offer value to the customer, which we think we do through concentrates. So we try to like play out that message and like price appropriately for that. We want to sit on shelf, not at a super premium because, I think we sit in terms of like good, better, best, which is how you think about a lot of products sitting on shelf. We definitely sit in a best category, but a best category in lawn and garden we're not talking Chanel or LVMH here. Like we're never going to be at that level of luxury in lawn and garden and chemicals. So you have to make sure that you're not outpricing yourself on shelf, just so that the customers just know that value to prop doesn't ever exist even in this category. And then I think you want to create different offerings at different retailers and in different channels too. So yeah, build your pricing scale for it. People know that they're going to pay a little bit more at certain retailers. And if you don't, then as a consumer, you can be more savvy. You're going to pay more for the same eggs at Erewhon than you are at your local Walmart. Even Walmart has organic produce and whatever else. So I think think through the channel and the margins you're going to get at that. Think through the different percentage markups that you see across other brands and how they're layering that in and doing that. And then also thinking about how you can differentiate your product, whether it be the size or the color or the this or the that gives different value propositions to different retailers, so that you don't just have to have this pricing across the board that everyone just compares themselves to.
And did you ever think about bundles?
We did. Yeah. So because we do have a starter set. So we actually created a couple kind of trial and starter sets exclusively for Walmart out the gate, which was a bundling of 2 of our different products as almost like a sample. We've yet to bundle our 16-ounce because the concentrates go so far. We actually don't think customers can get through like the use of it that quickly. So we're in a really interesting category. We're a seasonal business and we have a very concentrated product. So where you're seeing, this is also a reason that D2C didn't really make a ton of sense for us. I think D2C makes a ton of sense when you're first purchase profitable, you're shipping something that's light, you have something that you know is going to be repeat for a customer. You can build a really great repeat value proposition there. We have none of those things and we're seasonal. So I think that, we thought a lot about retail and how we could either starter set or build like co-packs of those, but bundling same SKUs didn't make a ton of sense for us out the gate right now in our current channels. I think as we expand into maybe Costco channels or others that are a little bit higher volume and people are wanting that bulk, that's probably where we'll get into bundles and create even more SKU differentiation with that.
Yeah, it's interesting that kind of the starter set concept. I hear a lot about how do you differentiate at certain retailers, Walmart, Target, and I think a lot of brands have found that some sort of either bundling or starter set or trial can be really helpful at some of those mass retail accounts.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you're seeing the same.
Yeah, I mean, you really just want to drive first purchase too is so key, right? So driving trial and then to purchase and come back is so key. It's similar to your D2C funnel, honestly. It's like, how do you get a mass amount of people into your website and then X number will convert? How do you get a mass number of people sampling, trying, getting a sample or just a small size of your product so that they then convert? If your product is good and you believe in the value and the effectiveness of your product, then the logical or in theory is that they're going to try it once and they're going to come back. So driving that through trial is definitely key. And I think, it also does allow for you to differentiate some of your SKUs and value prop at various retailers as well.
Yeah. And then you've talked about these various channels from the independents to the mass retail channels. Once you're in some of these channels, how do you continue to retain them? Are you continuing to educate buyers? Are you continuing to do marketing efforts to make sure that those customers are looking at your product on those shelves?
Yeah, definitely. So we build out our marketing mix basically by split between our digital and our retail marketing. So a lot of what we do for retail has to do with our in-store assets. So where can we get brand blocking, signage, trays, boxes and CDUs that sit on shelf, various different merchandising opportunities, end caps, different ways basically that you just visually show up on shelf. That is one of the best ways to invest in retail. And then investing in discount programs too. I mean, customers love a sale and love $1 off and love a coupon. And so how do you build that again, opportunity for them to maybe make that first purchase at a discount and then hopefully come back for more. So those are the two definitely primary strategies that we're using to continue to drive people to convert retail and to just drive them to store in general. And then we spend a lot of time, obviously, as well in digital, creating great content and assets and a educational experience through email and newsletter, integrating QR codes on packaging so that hopefully retail can tie back to your digital front. And then a lot of time too on influencer. Honestly, I mean, I know everyone's investing in influencer these days, but it is a really great way to get your brand presence out there and to drive to retail. So influencer programs specific to Target, influencer programs specific to Walmart, working, people on in-store content or giveaways or all of those things that just either, tie your product to a particular retailer so that there's like a path to purchase that's really clear for the customer.
I want to go back to what you said about the QR codes. One of the questions I get all the time from maybe early stage brands is, how do I make that connection? I get no data about who's buying my product at Target or wherever. Does the QR code work for you? Are you finding that is an effective way to tie that in-store customer back to your D2C?
Yeah, so we're testing it in a couple different ways. So we initially put QR codes on a lot of our in-store assets, like our half pallet feature and our sign or a channel strip at store. And candidly, like the scan rate wasn't great in comparison to, other, I don't know, sales metrics and whatever else. So I think what our strategy moving forward is going to be is creating more, I guess, incentives to scan. I think QR codes, like people see them everywhere now. And I think now after COVID, honestly, we're in a bit more of a flow and process of scanning the QR code because it was for menus and for all other things. So I think we just need to like properly drive the why scan this. Like QR codes are going to be sitting there, but just learn more isn't enough to make someone interested to scan it. So we're actually developing out a plant tag program where we have little plant tags that sit into various different annuals and perennials and plants that you can purchase. And then we're going to be doing some giveaways, some contests, some for your product to get this, different ways that are much more incentivizing of why you would want to scan that QR code, why you would want to give us your information, and just like making that content very clear and the value proposition very clear up front. Because learn more is just, it's not enough to incentivize the customer to scan that code. It's from what we've learned. And even, I mean, I'm holding up a competitor product right now to scan me for a how-to video. Like even that, I don't know if that's incentivizing enough either. So we're playing around with that right now too. Keep you posted on the results.
It is interesting because I think especially because of your seasonality too, like you have a window, right, where that scan and getting that customer's information could be really helpful. And then if you pass that window, you still have the information, but maybe now you got to wait till next spring or whenever people are in the purchasing mood.
Yeah, I think a big thing for us is how can we turn that into like owning that customer in a way that they'll stay connected with us, whether it be through then them getting their SMS updates on how and when to water with our thing, or like getting that customer so then they want to follow us in an educational journey that is very relevant to the product they're using, the use case, how to use it, especially in our space when gardening and plant care is sometimes intimidating. Like we started with, what is a biological? Like, why do you use your products? When do you use your products? What do you use your products on? There's just so many. It's not mayonnaise that you're going to buy it and you're going to eat it and you know how to eat it. It's a very complex kind of maybe journey. So figuring out ways to support customers through that and then increasing that lifetime value with them by offering them a lot of that content is what we want to derive from them scanning and giving us our email. So just really trying to add a lot of value for them, I guess, is hopefully a way that we'll keep them month over month and year over year after they initially scan that code.
Which is interesting because I think a lot of other brands are trying to get them to scan that code so that they will then repurchase on the D2C site. But you kind of don't necessarily maybe care about that as much because you don't want to ship these heavy things.
Yeah, I mean, I am fine with wherever a customer wants to buy our product. Like we sell to a number of different retailers for that reason. Yeah, we're never going to own every single one of our customers. If they can connect with us and we can add some value to their growing journey because they purchase our product in retail, they scan it, and then they go and purchase it in retail again. Awesome. That is what we want to do. We want to develop a longer lifetime value with them, where they're kind of coming back year over year to purchase our product. And and we can continue to keep educating them and supporting them in that growing journey, and support our retailers in that too, so that they're coming back to the retailers that they love.
Amazing. So where at this point you have so many channels, so many retailers, mass, independents, obviously you've got distributors. How has your team changed to support all of these different channels?
Yeah. So we hired a VP of sales that has like a lot of depth of expertise in retail. So that's huge. We hired a VP of marketing that has a depth of expertise in retail. We are looking through, we've like upgraded, I would say, or our broker kind of connections. So we're working with brokers across a lot of these retailers as well that can support us logistically and marketing and creatively and otherwise. So I think, it's just building a very retail forward team is something that we've definitely started to think about and have pivoted towards in the last year, where before I think maybe, and a lot of my network existed in the like D2C and digitally forward kind of world. So it's really been digging into my network on how we can now find much more of a retail focused space. Including our new lead investor on this round is a strategic retail focused investor. So it's really just starting to narrow in on, okay, if 85 to 90% of your revenue is coming from a wholesale or retail channel and or any other identified kind of channel, how do you build the appropriate team around that is how we've pivoted.
Yeah. Makes sense. It's a lot to manage. Okay. So how do you measure success in these channels? And is the measure of success the same for like the independents versus the Walmarts of the world?
Yeah, no, that's a really great question. I mean, units per store per week is a standard term that as a measurement of success within our category. I think we set our forecasts early in the year and try and hit certain turns that throughout the season. So that's definitely something that we are always tracking. I think increasing or continuing to expand our SKU set. So I think that's something that is a huge goal of ours too. So how do we get into retail, and then how do we get more shelf space is definitely another way that we measure that. And how are we continuing to add items, add SKUs, and just create more brand within that category. Customer reviews across both, like we love digging into customer data and doing phone calls and interviews with customers and just like understanding, are our products effective in helping them solve their plant and growing needs? And honestly, if you create a really great product across any category, like that is going to be, the customer feedback is going to be such a core part of how you should measure success, because that should be the baseline of everything. And then you layer on the marketing and distribution and everything from there. So that's really important to us, is just connecting with our customer and making sure that they are loving the product, that they're using it properly, that it's covering all of their kind of needs and understanding them there. And then I think in terms of difference between, the different channels, I think it's a bit more of how we're servicing those different retailers. So do they have the right store assets? Do they have the right educational materials for their sales teams? Do they feel supported by our brand, whether it be operationally, marketing collateral wise, or otherwise? Is something else we're really trying to look at, and by channel, what those different needs are. And so how we can help those retailers in turning more of our product, because it's a win-win if they're buying it and customers are then buying it from them. So how do we properly support each of the different channels in doing that?
That's amazing. That was very helpful. I want to end with advice. So what's the one maybe most critical, highly critical piece of advice you'd give to founders as they start considering an omni-channel approach in whatever category, but in sort of the way that you've thought about it, which is right from the beginning? What would you tell them?
That is a great question. I think that, there's just a lot that goes into it. And I didn't follow this advice, but I definitely would find your own way of your own MVP. That might be like, for us, honestly, like Walmart was our MVP of trying operationally to get ready for mass. So whatever scale that is or level that is for you, whether it be like, I want to be in 10 independent specialty stores that are carrying my olive oil or whatever else, and just like understand that channel like inside and out before you then go to scale. So Walmart doesn't sound like an MVP, but it was our MVP. It's like, how do we service a mass retailer with X number of doors in this seasonal business with these number of SKUs? And if we can do that successfully, then we can scale into so many different other opportunities. So select and pick what you think your like, MVP is based on your goals of where you want to be. And then like fine tune that and deliver on that and iterate on that. Before you then scale. And I don't know, this is a bit of a mindset of the venture world of the build fast and break things. Like you don't really have an opportunity to do that in consumer, and you don't have an opportunity to do that in retail. So don't do that. And I mean, even if you're backed by investors or whatever else, again, consumer is a bit different than venture. It's not raise a crap ton of money and you have to be continuing to push and hitting all these crazy revenue targets that maybe are like vastly impacting your margins, or it's impacting the business in general and stability of your business. Build profitably, build strategically, don't get pressured by maybe your investors' demands, and don't build fast and break things. Like build strategically and smart and test and learn, and build a product that people love. Like really care about your product and what it's doing in the world and how it's different than what's out there in your category too. And then you shall be successful.
I love it. Don't build fast and break things, build a profitable business and have a product that people love. I don't know. I mean, that's it. There you go. We boiled it all down to 3 sentences. I love it. This was awesome. Vanessa, thank you so much for sharing your advice on the podcast and your experience in Omnichannel. This was really great. Really appreciate your time.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for having me. It's super fun.
And thank you for listening to the Retail X podcast. We'll have another new episode out shortly.
Thanks for listening. If you'd like to learn more about Retail X Series, check out www.retailxseries.com for more information, including recordings of past events. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Retail X Series. You could also learn more about me, find fundraising resources, or submit a pitch deck at www.redgiraffeadvisors.com. Thanks, and catch you next time.